Being reliable won't get you promoted. It's probably why you're still waiting for the promotion you've already earned. Because the more leadership can rely on you where you are, the harder it is for them to picture you anywhere else. By the end of this video, you're going to learn why being invaluable in your role is hurting you, not helping you. The key shifts needed to go from workhorse to strategic promotable leader. My 5-step progression ladder to go from overlooked to getting recognized and promoted faster. And be sure to stick around until the end because I'll be sharing how my client Karina applied this system to go from feeling stuck after her maternity leave to landing a $330,000 promotion at Microsoft. So why is this so important? According to MIT Sloan, women are 14% less likely to be promoted than their male colleagues despite having higher performance ratings, and being overly reliable plays right into that. So let's dive into some really practical ways to make sure this doesn't happen to you. Okay, so first things first, why does being reliable actually block your promotion? Sure, you might think that being the go-to person, the one that everyone could depend on, and being a great team player is actually a good thing. But the issue is that when there's so much reliance on the things that you do, it actually limits your growth potential in where you can also add a lot of value in the company. Not to mention, it keeps you stuck in this workhorse mindset where it's constantly doing more and trying to prove yourself consistently, instead of moving more towards a strategic mindset and one that positions you as a strategic leader, especially towards decision makers who influence your progression. So let's get into the key shifts that are needed to go from a workhorse mindset into a strategic leader mindset. All right, the first one is when you have a workhorse mindset, you're often measuring success by effort, the number of hours, the number of outputs that you're getting out there. Instead, you need to shift to measuring success by impact, results, outcomes, things that truly move the business forward. As I like to call this, leveraged work, not busy work that just keeps you spinning your wheels. Additionally, when you fall into a workhorse mindset, you are pretty much saying yes to everything. You are that yes person, scared to say no, not wanting to come off as though you aren't collaborative or that you're defensive or that you're not capable of doing things that are being asked of you. The problem with that is it spreads you way too thin and you end up focusing on things that help other people but aren't necessarily favoring your own development goals. And so by moving to a strategic leader mindset, this is where you actually say no with context. It's not about not wanting to help others or do the thing that's being asked, but you're giving more context as to why you have to say no in certain situations. This can sound something like, as much as I'd love to support you on this, I have already 3 key priorities I'm focusing on this week that I've already aligned on with my manager. And so realistically, it's something I'd be able to get to only as of next week. Would that work for you? Or if it's something that you really don't feel like you should be taking on anymore because you're trying to elevate yourself in your role, you could say something like, thanks so much for coming to me on this. As much as I would love to help, I don't necessarily think this is something that I should be taking on right now, given the current focus areas of my work. I'm happy to suggest someone else that would likely be able to support you on that. Would that work for you? And again, what's great with these kind of reframes is you're not showing that you're closed off. You want to help, you want to be solution oriented, but that doesn't mean that you become the default person to take it on yourself. All right, let's move on to the next one. When you have a workhorse mindset, you are often stuck in this waiting for permission cycle. You're waiting for the right opportunities. You're waiting to advocate for yourself. You're waiting for things to come your way and just hoping that will happen. When you adopt a strategic leader mindset, this is where you claim leadership moments early. You can anticipate what's coming up the funnel and already volunteer to be a support to your boss, your VP, your leadership team, just to name a few. For example, if your company has really important meetings that happen every so often in the year, and you know that's going to require a lot of hands on deck, you can already start preparing for what that's going to entail from you and offer your support in line with your boss on what you can already do now to elevate your leadership in that initiative, in that project, in that meeting preparation. Stop waiting for permission because otherwise you're going to be waiting a long time. Another indicator of a workhorse mindset is that you execute tasks efficiently, which yes, of course is important, but that almost becomes table stakes when it comes to promotions, right? You are expected to do great work. That's kind of the name of the game. The risk that this runs is that you might not be executing your energy on the things that matter most as it relates to your goals, the broader broader company goals and the priorities that are actually going to move the needle. And so when you adopt a strategic leader mindset, this is where you start asking proactive strategic questions to get to the heart of the matter. This could sound something like, what problem are we really trying to solve for right here? What is the biggest pain point that you see on this initiative? What outcome would you like us to achieve on this within the next 3 months? What would success look like for you on this project? This line of questioning is great for added intel to make sure you put your time and energy towards the right areas, but also gives the signal to your leadership team that you are an ally, a partner to help them achieve what matters most. And guess what? Whose name comes up when there's promotion conversations happening? Yours. Because you've shown and proven that you can go beyond just execution excellence and can actually deliver and think strategically as it relates to your role and how that ties into the bigger picture. Another indicator of a workhorse mindset that is keeping you stuck is working in isolation. Sure, you might be doing your work really well, but if you aren't having enough visibility and exposure to other teams, it's not allowing you to get that visibility that is really critical for fast tracking your promotions. Whereas by adopting a strategic leader mindset, you're able to build alignment across stakeholders, across your team, broader teams, other departments. And please know this doesn't mean taking on more work or more projects. It's about you connecting the dots of how you can bring value to these other stakeholders and where they see you as an amazing strategic support in the things that they're working towards as well. For example, if you're working in marketing and you know that you work really closely with your supply chain team to get your product launches out into the market, and by speaking and working with the supply chain team, you're aware of some of the KPIs that they're measured against. You can actually factor that into your working dynamic so that you are integrating that earlier on in the launch process. You are anticipating for their needs. You are factoring that in so that way there's no nasty surprises or things that backfire. Instead, the supply chain team sees you and your team as someone that understands their reality. And when they understand your reality, they are more inclined to support you, especially in times of need or crunch time when you're backed against a wall. And remember, promotion decisions are made by multiple stakeholders. So when you have different departments echoing your praises and how you show up, this only works in your favor. So remember, reliability keeps you busy, but strategy gets you promoted. So let's go through my 5-step progression ladder to get you recognized, trusted, and promoted faster. Let's start off with step number 1, which is all about anchoring your work to business impact. This means shifting away from just doing tasks to driving actual results and forward movement. In essence, every deliverable that you're working towards should tie back to revenue, efficiency, or growth, one way or another. And if you're wondering, how does this apply to my role if I'm not part of a cost center or a revenue driving department of the company, I totally get that. But you actually are impacting those things because your role in your department, in your division, still impacts those pieces down the line. And without the work that you're doing, it would impact what that end outcome looks like. And so that's what you really want to hone in on to capitalize on your role in that process. And the way you actually communicate this in real time is essential. You don't want to simply say things like, I finished the report on time. You want to say things instead like, this report highlights where we can cut costs by 12% while still scaling operation. This approach is much better at connecting the dots between the work that you've done and the actual impact it's creating in a way that's meaningful for the company. And it also makes sure that the credit is attributed to you without it risking going towards someone else. Let's move on to step number 2, which is to say no like a leader. What I mean is shifting away from waiting to lead and leading before you're ready. And remember, saying no with context shows discernment, not defiance. And that is a really important quality the more you grow in your organization and as you work towards your promotion track. It's very rare that you are going to see a senior leader in your company, or any company for that matter, that says yes to everything. The more senior you get, the more you actually need to say no and make sure that you're saying yes to the right things that warrant your attention. So instead of immediately committing to something that you know you shouldn't be taking on or you're already stretched too thin, but you tend to say, sure, I'll take that on too, when you're like crying inside because you already have so much on your plate. Try something instead like, that's a great idea. To hit our Q4 goals, I do need to stay focused on my current revenue driving priorities that will realistically take me through the next few weeks. Would we be able to revisit this next month together? Again, this approach is showing that you're collaborative, that you want to help, but that saying yes right now is not a viable option for you. What's great with this approach is that you're still showing collaboration and that you want to help, but also highlighting that saying yes right now is not a viable option for you. Plus, you're giving context as to why you have to say no so that it doesn't hurt your credibility or professionalism within these relationships. The third step in my 5-step progression ladder is all about claiming leadership moments early. This means shifting from reactive to strategic. You're not just responding to requests that are coming through and feeling like a hamster on a hamster wheel, doing busy work time and time again. You're actually showing more forward planning, anticipation, and critical thinking of where you should be putting your time and energy. And you can do this by stepping forward in certain projects, nominating yourself to get involved with influence, not necessarily needing a leadership title. And I love the script example that just hones right in on that to give you the right visibility in these key leadership moments. Something like, I'd like to lead the kickoff for this project. It's a big jump from my current scope, but I believe my recent experience on X project has set me up well for this. I'd also love to join in on our conversations with leadership around the outcomes on this. Can I get your support on that? Now, this is a great script you can use with your direct boss. That way, they understand your motivations of getting involved in something like this and how it can really complement the current nature of your work. And if this is something that you've been wanting to do, but you're like, oh my gosh, Tiffany, I'm already spread so thin. How can I do that even though I know this will be really strategic for me? That's where you can propose something to come off of your plate or be deprioritized or delegated to someone else that will actually give you the time and space to take this on instead. You can even tie this back to your own development goals with your boss in a one-on-one status meeting. And that could sound something like, I know I've been heads down within XYZ priorities that we've discussed, and as much as that's moving along well, I would really like to shift some of my energy in this coming quarter to take on X initiative instead. It's one that will help me a lot in my own development goals that you and I have talked about and give me more space for the exposure with our leadership team that I didn't get as much of in the last quarter. Here's my recommendation of how we can shift things around so that I can take it on without compromising any of my current work. And then like this, you're in a position with your boss to align on this new path forward and one that will serve your needs and progression track a lot better. Step 4 is all about asking proactive, intentional questions. This opens up so many doors for you, and I can't tell you how many women underestimate the importance of doing this. This is where you want to shift away from just execution and move towards strategic thinking, showing that muscle that you can think a few steps ahead. Not to mention, it shows that you can anticipate needs and move important decisions forward. For example, you can say something like, before moving forward, what problem are we really trying to solve? I'm getting the sense that certain things are going off track, and I definitely want us to keep X goal in mind, which was the initial vision for this project. And to take it a step further, I've prepared some of my favorite intentional questions you can ask that will really help position you strategically towards your promotion and elevate your leadership perception as well. So questions like, what's the ultimate outcome we're driving towards this? Or how does this align with our broader business goals? Or if we had to prioritize only one thing, what would it be? Or what's the risk if we don't address this now? I actually love this one so much because it shows that you're looking to think ahead, but also already anticipating for things that might go a different direction and making sure that you're ready for that. Or what feedback or data do we need before we decide? This is a great question to bring people together and make sure you're involving the right stakeholders who will influence a certain outcome alongside yourself. Or how will success be measured on this project? Who are the key stakeholders we need aligned before moving forward? Or what's the trade-off of saying yes to this versus other priorities, right? Again, showing that critical thinking of if I were to take this on, what might need to take a backseat focus to allow for that? And finally, what potential roadblocks should we anticipate and how can we get ahead of them? So you can mix and match these questions however you deem fit for your specific situation that you're navigating. And I really encourage you to do that because it gets you out of execution mode and really focused on things that matter, getting to the heart of where you need to put your energy and focus. And by the way, it elevates your leadership potential in the eyes of decision makers and already gives them a cue of what moving you into a next role would actually look like. Let's now move on to step 5 of my 5-step progression ladder, which is actually all about building alignment, not just buy in. And what we want to do here is shift from individual contributor into connector. This is where you are uniting different stakeholders towards shared goals, something that you can all get behind and really position yourself as that strategic partner. For example, you can say something like, I organized a kickoff meeting with marketing, sales, and ops to address the prior tensions we felt on our last project and map out a clear plan forward together. This quality of bringing people together, of creating the sense of unity and cohesion, goes such a long way, especially if you are working in an organization where it's multi hierarchical and there's different viewpoints and maybe even really strong opinions that you're navigating. We never want that to keep you in this reliable trap of taking everything on yourself or being that go to workhorse that is only going to keep you spinning your wheels. By building alignment, not just buy in, it helps you zoom out and show that you are a connector, that you are bringing people together, and that you have the capabilities to lead, empower, and inspire others that you're working with. My 5-step progression ladder is so effective and just consistently works for my clients, and I'm so excited for you to put it into action. In fact, this recently led my client Karina to secure her $330,000 promotion at Microsoft in just 8 weeks. And when Karina and I started together, she was feeling stuck. She had delivered great results, was getting great feedback, but she was feeling stalled after her mat leave and wondering what was next in terms of her promotion. She also fell into the trap, as many smart women do, of saying yes too much and taking on more in hopes that it would lead to her promotion. And that just was not happening for her. She was also worried about being stuck in more of an individual contributor path with a lot of the changes that were happening within the company and knew that she was ready for more leadership opportunity, but couldn't quite land that on her own. She was also executing plans as given to her, hoping that would speak for itself, but we recognized very quickly that that's just not enough. And she also lacked visibility from some key decision makers as it related to her promotion. So that was something we had to course correct on very quickly in starting our work together. And so, if we run through some of the key shifts that we did in Karina's case, first and foremost, we reframed her updates and work in terms of ROI and efficiency. She was driving a lot of impact, but it wasn't being articulated in the way that we've talked about today that brought a lot more visible progress to decision makers. On top of that, we reinforced her boundaries and said no to low ROI tasks with context. This is definitely an adjustment for her as she was so used to saying yes ongoing and didn't want it to backfire. But with the right kind of framing that we implemented by showing that certain things had to come off the plate and by reprioritizing with intention, it actually helped her garner a lot more respect for her growth goals and where she could bring a lot of value within the company. We also leaned into cross-functional visibility and project exploration. This happened in the form of one-on-one conversations that I mapped out for Karina of who she needed to talk to and what those scripts would look like so that she could identify really quickly what their pain points were, where their goals lied, where she can bring the most value. And this actually helped her create opportunities and open up pathways that weren't even part of the initial plan when she came back from her maternity leave. She also built the habit of asking strategic questions about direction and risk. That way, when we solidified her business case for promotion, she knew exactly which messages to dial in, how to frame that as it related to her track record, and bring a lot of confidence and conviction in her delivery. And this all came to leading intentional one-on-one conversations with the right leaders and influencers in her organization. Part of this was in her immediate vertical track, but it also allowed us to open up two different pathways complementary to that that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And the results from this were amazing. Not only did leadership start recognizing that Karina could be a value to new opportunities, like I mentioned, ones that weren't even actively open at the beginning of our working together. But she actually regained key time for high impact projects. And coming back from her maternity leave not so long ago, that time was so precious so that she can show up in the best way within her workplace and also have that time for her family at home without compromising her work life balance. She also was able to gain visibility with senior stakeholders, several of which she hadn't had that direct exposure prior. And through those one on one conversations that we scripted together, it actually opened up a lot of new connections with other leaders because now she had the endorsement of those earlier contacts who were already helping pave the way for her to have those next level conversations. And by asking those strategic questions, it really reinforced the trust and credibility in her vision, in her skill set, and in her innovative thinking, which is one of Karina's biggest strengths. And the best part is that all of this culminated to her not only just securing an amazing promotion at $330,000 in less than 8 weeks, but it was a role that was actually created for her, a path that wasn't even there when we first started working together on this. And so, this is the power of following this progression roadmap because it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to be going through this on your own, wondering, what should I do? What should I say? Who should I involve? By having that one on one guidance, it helped Karina map this out so clearly that she knew where to put her time and energy and how that would actually get her to secure her promotion a lot faster. And if this is resonating with you, if you're like, oh my gosh, Tiffany, I see myself in Karina's story, I feel stuck, maybe you're falling into that workhorse trap where you are just so reliable that it's almost becoming a hassle to move you, then just keep you where you are. We have to fix this. Perhaps you've been feeling stuck for months or even years, and that is something we have to turn around together. And I have an amazing free tool to help you do that. It's actually my proprietary career growth scorecard, which will allow you to identify really quickly exactly where your growth gaps are and why you are stuck. No guesswork, it's going to give you such a clear mapping so you will know this within a matter of seconds. And to take it a step further, doing that is just part of the equation. I would love to have a one-on-one call together where we can actually go through your specific scorecard results. And on that call, I'm going to map out your 3 to 5 biggest strategic levers that you need to get you to where you want to go faster. Perhaps that's your internal promotion. Maybe that's a step up in a leadership position. Maybe that's making a move elsewhere. Whatever might be coming up for you, this is going to be the key to get you there. And having that level of clarity is just a non-negotiable to make sure you know what to do and how to do it without any of the guesswork. And again, this is a free one-on-one call. I really encourage you to schedule that in. You can do that right in the description below this video, and you'll get access to my proprietary scorecard. Again, an absolutely free, amazing tool to get you unstuck, out of the reliable trap, and get promoted faster. So be sure to schedule your free one-on-one call now. We are so excited to speak with you and learn more about your specific situation and exactly map out what you need to do next with the right levers to get you there a lot faster. And thank you so much for watching today's video. I would love to know what your biggest takeaways were. Drop them in the comments and let me know what you are most excited to put into action. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Every week, I'm posting new videos on helping women in corporate level up a lot faster without the guesswork. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.